This community in the US state of Arkansas is being developed exclusively for white residents, a concept which comes with legal challenges. Located in a remote area of the Ozark Mountains, return to the land is a utopia for some, but a dystopia for others.
I was attracted to it because I felt that we were too isolated. I became more concerned about the future of my identity group, white Americans. I don't have any other group that I belong to, really. If you look at the trajectory of the demographic composition of the US, whites are becoming a minority, and that's not positioned to turn around. And already, white people in America are subject to some legal discrimination. Affirmative action is legal discrimination against white people. I see that other groups do work together for their common interest.
Orwoll is looking for like-minded people mainly on platforms like X or on Rumble or on YouTube to move to the 160-acre compound. He tells us that so far 40 people have moved here and hundreds have joined, paying a one-time $25 membership fee and earning acceptance after sharing information online about their ethnic background. Walk me through the application process.
First, you would go to the website, returntotheland.org, and fill out a questionnaire. So we ask about your values, your religious beliefs, we ask about hobbies and things like that. And then you would schedule an interview, and we have a team of interviewers who ask a certain set of questions, and then they report the feedback from the interviews, and then the board of directors votes, and that's how we make those decisions.
How far do you go back?
There's no hard line. If someone is 1/8 Native American, for example, that wouldn't necessarily disqualify them. But there's no hard line. It's a case-by-case thing.
Tell me a little bit, what is a European identity from your perspective? How would you describe that?
Well, it's complex. It encompasses a lot of stuff. I went to school for classical European music, so I think that's a big part of European identity, our musical traditions.
I asked him if he could play something for us. Why did you pick this one?
Because you're here.
Eric is fascinated by Germany. So thinking about Germany, this is our anthem, of course. Tell me, what do you make of Germany when you think about Germany?
I think it's a beautiful country with a rich history.
Talking about Germany, we of course have to talk about the Holocaust.
War itself is a tragedy in all cases, and now I feel that people in Germany have a very complex sense of their own identity, to the point where perhaps something essential will be lost in that German identity, and I don't want to see that happen. Syrian migrants practicing Islam, that's not that German tradition. That's a radical break. You can assimilate a small number of people into a tradition over time, but too many people too quickly, and that ruptures the tradition, and it's no longer that same German identity it was.
Jews, he tells me, would not be allowed into the land as people with Levantine ancestry and tradition wouldn't fit in, he says. Would I be allowed to move here?
Well, I like you a lot, but we are a community for traditional European values, and part of that is heteronormativity, ordinary nuclear families that are consistent with our general tradition, and it's not part of traditional European morality to affirm or uphold, LGBT lifestyles.
Orwoll and other board members have bigger plans. He tells us that they are already looking into buying compounds in other states. And are they also hubs where most like-minded people would live, or is this all over the United States?
There are definitely hubs. Yeah, it's Appalachia, the Pacific Northwest, and the Ozarks. Those are by far the leading contenders.
Why is that?
Well, different reasons in each case. Appalachia is kind of where the American ethnogenesis took place. You know, the Scots-Irish are a big portion of American or white American ancestry, and they really became a distinct people in the American context in Appalachia. A lot of people have roots in Appalachia. There are a lot of strong, very old, traditional American communities there. So people are sympathetic. Also, it's not as expensive as some parts of the country. The laws are not as restrictive in terms of development, so you wouldn't be held up by endless permitting requirements.
There are questions if this concept is violating anti-discrimination housing laws that have been in place for 57 years. Tim Griffin, the Arkansas Attorney General, said in a statement, "We are continuing our review of this matter." Eric Orwoll is disappointed that President Trump didn't fulfill his promise to build a wall, but he still voted for him again.
You know, if a Democrat had won, we probably would not have been as direct about our aims for our association. We would have been more low-key. But right now there is a chance that Trump's DOJ might rule in our favor. Most Americans believe that on private land we should be allowed to associate however we want. It's not the government's job to tell us what kind of communities we're allowed to have. So there are some things that pertain to everyone, public commerce and so forth. No, it's not a superiority thing. It's they are my people who I came from. All of my ancestors are white Europeans. My children are white Europeans. So that's who I'm responsible for. You know, like if I take care of my kids, that doesn't mean that I think my kids are better than all other kids. It means I think I have a special moral obligation to take care of what is pertinent to me, my household, my kids. And your race, your people, that is an extension from your family.
This building is to become the community center with a little stage also for the children living on the compound to perform. All of them are homeschooled. Eric tells us the swastikas symbolize luck and fate. It's meant to be intentional rejection of the modern system of social taboos, is his explanation.
The vast majority of people that came to the United States were Europeans from Europe. And that changed specifically in like the 1960s with the Hart-Celler Immigration Act and a number of other laws since then. And all of a sudden, the number of immigrants from non-European countries changed. I have heard that said a lot before, and I believe they do teach it in school because they taught it to me in school, that America was started as a big melting pot experiment. But when you look at the demographics of the country before the 1950s, that's not really true.
Many enslaved people were brought over here as well, of course. You don't want them to live here on your land?
Well, it's pretty normal that if you own land, you don't want random people to come and live on it. So yes.
But they would not be allowed to apply to live here, right?
Well, they could live anywhere around here that they wanted to. This is this property that I own, and I get to say who comes on it and who doesn't. It's true that there's a lot of people that I wouldn't allow to come live on it, and that's part of the rights of being a private property owner.
Less than 30 minutes by car away is the Eddie May Heron Center, a museum which is dedicated to keep the memory of slavery and segregation alive.
I was a student here. I went to school here in the late 50s and early 60s.
So when the school was still segregated?
When the school was still segregated. And we attended school here, and we went from the 1st grade to the 8th grade. And we had little friends that we played together every day, playing ball, jump rope, all the activities. But there was a certain point that you had to stop, that, you know, like such as going to school together, going to church together. You know, you couldn't go to a restaurant and sit down and eat. You had to go to the back door. You had to order your food and take it to go. These are the students, some of the students that attended school here. These are some of our classmates. And of course, like I said, my maiden name was Finley, and Thank goodness for time. I think this building here, we are so proud that we had the opportunity to preserve it, to tell this history, because this history will be lost if we don't tell it. You know, like taking books off the shelves and saying, you know, we don't want to, that slavery was not bad. Those are things that takes you back. And then I fear that one day we will be back.
How do you feel about knowing that there are white people trying to build a community for white Europeans only? How do you feel about that?
Well, I just feel like this is 2025. I can't believe that it's really so open. I feel like some things have always been, you know, people have felt that way, but I was in hopes that we had come much farther than we have. I just can't hardly believe that it's really happening so openly.
Neighbors and friends helped keep the museum open and came here today to support Pat Johnson.
It's sad and scary all at the same time. I was really disappointed to hear about it, but the bigger disappointment comes from when you get online and see all the comments of people that are okay with it. All you have to do is go on any of their Twitter pages and scroll for not long to realize they're very supported and empowered by white supremacist groups. It's a perfect time right now in the world of everybody trying to get back to pioneering and living off the land and going off the grid. So that's an easy sell, especially to kind of younger 20s, 30-year-olds. And then you add in the layer of, well, it's just for our heritage. We're just supporting our heritage. And then when you get leaders like our president and stuff that support ideas like that and don't always watch what they say negative things about people, and it kind of just gives them a little more courage and free passes to say what they want. So it's just kind of like a perfect storm right now for it to take hold and spread, and that's what I know Pat is scared of, and I would be scared of, and I don't want it to happen.
Pat and her friends don't intend to give in to their worries and will keep telling the story of the United States and how enslaved people have been treated.